Wow. How you doing? So Devin with Enlightened Flow Detail. Thank you for tuning in today to check out this, to me, an inspiring video of finding what it is you want to do in life, and being passionate about it and knowing what to do when that passion might fade away, and what it looks like from the pure honesty of, like, it's not just good things all the time, and showing you the kind of in-depth situations of struggles and the peaks and valleys, and then just kind of talking the truth and honesty of how I, as a person, as a man, has gotten through those things and still getting through those things. So hope you enjoy the video. Hopefully it's not too long for you. And yeah, hope you all have a great day too. Thank you. My name is Devin Madu. I'm the owner of Light and Flow Detail. I come from Hermiston, Oregon, and this is also where I've established my business professionally. Started off just kind of as a job. Was able to find out that I was pretty good at it, and I wanted to dedicate myself and try to create my own company in this area and serve the community in which I come from, what I'm really good at doing, which is making cars look their best. I've learned more as I've stepped outside of my community, actually, what community means more. Growing up here, I mean, community just meant just the people you were around on a day-to-day basis. Your classmates, your teachers, your family, your family members that you'd see on a regular basis. That was just kind of community. And then getting out after high school into reaching deeper, farther than just the norm, comfortable situations like classmates and teachers and family members, and actually having to, do jobs for people that are complete strangers. I've noticed how much community wasn't actually felt here in this area of that I'm from, Hermiston, Oregon. At least that's just what I've felt. There's some aspects of where certain events bring community together, but for the most part, I've found community in a lot meaningful setting in bigger cities that I've traveled to. I don't know why, but it just always seems like big open cities are always very open people about just what they're doing in life and what they're going through and whatnot. Whereas tight communities, smaller towns, urban cities, seem to always kind of just be shut down and almost just want their own space. Maybe it's just because they just are so tightly in a tight community to begin with. So I don't know. But so I think to me just means being able to work together on building some sort of coherent vision, and agreeing to disagree sometimes. I mean, everyone has their own ideas of how to bring people together and run things smoothly, and you have to know how to take lead from the people that can take lead, and you have to know where your strengths and weaknesses are and able to enable a stronger community. It's kind of like an organism, I guess. A community is like an organism to me. If everything's functioning properly inside of an organism, all the cells and all the different parts are doing their deals, doing the things that they can be best at, that's going to allow, just as people in a community, if you know your strengths and weaknesses and you all have the same vision and the same ideas to keep the organism alive. If a community had the same vision, everyone in it, to keep the community thriving, then I feel like it'd be a very good running community. I think some of my like things that hold me back are just weaknesses, things I have to be aware of for myself. Because I mean, when you can become aware of your weaknesses, they can actually forecast into allowing it to become power or strength if you are actually aware of it and working on it and admitting to your weaknesses first and foremost. And for me, I think I grew up kind of just learning to be emotionally reactive to certain situations. So sometimes I take things personally when they don't need to be, especially in business. I mean, nothing ever really needs to be personal in a business situation, whether it's not getting the deal that you wanted, or the certain job that you thought was really going to help your business out, and maybe it's just because has nothing to do with you. The person might just, they can't afford that, or they just already have somebody in mind and they were just shopping around or whatever. But sometimes it's just easy. It's been easy to like take things personally. What am I not good enough, or did I not present myself in the right way? So that's been definitely something to have to overcome in the last couple years of building this business. Is just like not letting the emotional things of people get to you, because that will drive you bonkers, I think. I grew up around cars in general. I mean, that was like the first thing. My dad and my family has always been into hot rods and just nice cars, racing cars, at our local track. So I mean, I really wanted to work on them for the longest time, like, do mechanics, and then I started actually getting involved with that in the young teen years, and I had a go-kart that I raced and stuff, and I realized really quickly I did not actually enjoy doing mechanics on vehicles very much. But I still loved being around them and, still just loved the setting of just having a nice car and one that was fast even. And I think I I started kind of just watching my dad as a kid take care of his own vehicle, whatever he had on the weekend, always just keeping it vacuumed out and, washing it and always taking care of it on his day off. And so I kind of like that ingrained into me that that was important. When I got my own car, my first car in high school, just a Honda Accord, and I later sold that, got a Honda Civic. But both of those cars, I would always just be doing the same thing on my days off from school or whatever, washing my car, vacuuming out, keeping it looking nice. And I found my first job doing something similar was working at the Dodge dealership here in town. I was just they called it a lot porter. We would just wash cars that were already kind of detailed or just kept on the lot, vacuum them out, get them ready if a salesman was presenting it to get sold or whatever. And I noticed how the team of guys that I was working with, like it was just another job, which is there's nothing wrong with that. We weren't getting paid very much, but like for some reason I just took like a great responsibility to these vehicles and getting them looking better than they already maybe even were with what I had. Like all we had was a vacuum and a garden hose and bucket of soap and some drying towels. And I really cared about I figured out certain ways that glass cleaner would make the paint less streaky than using the spray wax that they had there at the dealership. And so that would be like my go-to. But within a couple months, as all the salesmen wanted, like when they were getting ready to sell a car, they'd come to me and, hey, we want Devin to do this because he's going to do it right. And, and so that kind of like was like, huh, a sense in me. And then I got noticed by the detail manager that they would send the cars to, and he liked the way I work. And I got sent over there for about 2 weeks working, learning the basics of detailing, shampooing seats, and running a pressure washer and cleaning out, engine bays and all sorts of stuff that we probably wasn't even doing the right way back then. But when you're doing stuff for a dealership, it's just as fast as you can be. Another thing I've been realizing though is, and I've been hearing a lot, is that motivation can only get you so far, and it's all about staying disciplined. And that's a struggle for me even, and I think it's a struggle for most people. It's like an extra gear that you have to shift yourself into that you've never even like driven in a car before, you didn't even know existed. Because like motivation just runs out, and it's so easy to like try to revolve and use life and people that are already successful as a way to stay motivated. And it works for a while until like just unexpected things in life happen. Like for one, the journey isn't just like the detailing itself or whatever, career that you're trying to succeed at is. The journey, is also things outside of that, like your family issues and just, health issues maybe, or just, life's demands, and maybe just having doubts in yourself that what you're doing isn't going to work out fully. So having the right type of clients has kept me definitely like motivated to still want to do this every day. And then just having some sort of outlet on the outside of detailing, going like I back said, like outside passions. That's definitely something that keeps me motivated to do this. Because some of the biggest challenges that I faced coming out of high school, that's especially where a lot of challenges seem to pop up. I mean, there was the usual, getting good grades and dealing with teachers and people you didn't like in school, but coming out into society, the biggest thing was always, just in your being and coming at you from the outside world of like, what are you supposed to be? What are you supposed to do for society, and how are you going to serve your community and everything else? So I think that was like the number one thing that I was always searching for, was like, what was my meaning and what was I supposed to be doing? It was just very important. It was so important that I was so stressed out about it that I didn't actually find what I was meant to do until like my early 20s. And, kind of just bouncing around from job to job, couple of different gas station jobs. And I even did things to make money, like, selling pot to make extra money. Real honest about it, if I wanted to be real honest about it. Not that I'm ashamed of it or anything. But yeah, I mean, I had an entrepreneurial mindset even when I was working, pretty close to minimum wage job, just because I knew my worth was worth more than what I was getting paid and at a low hourly rate doing things that I didn't really even enjoy doing. That was like the biggest obstacle, was just like actually finding something that was that drove my body, not just like something to make good money, like selling pot. You know what I mean? I cared a lot more than that, and actually serving the world. So finding that, like my true meaning, and finding my passion for detailing and then making things look their absolute best coming from their absolute worst. And that's kind of the journey of what detailing did for me in a way too. Was shaped me into my absolute, coming from absolute worst, starting it, and getting me not even close to yet, but feeling myself on the journey of getting to my absolute best in life. That's what detailing's done for me. I would go by this detail shop right next to the main grocery store there in Umatilla. I knew it was a detail shop just by the way that things were being ran, like stuff was getting pressure washed, pulled inside of outside of shops, and I just was like, yeah, that's got to be a detail shop. And so I've decided to stop in there one day, and I asked for the owner, and the guy that I've got attention of first was the owner himself, Mr. Jose Alanis, and he's like, I'm the owner. How can I help you? I was like, well, I'd like to work here for you. I'm really interested in doing detailing. I've done it in the past. I, kind of like really up myself. Like, I know how to do everything. I can be your guy. Well, I didn't, I only had like 2 weeks experience working with the type of equipment that they're working with, and I hadn't even learned everything. And that was 2 years, before that. So like 2 weeks and only having that experience, and then 2 years not having doing anything. Like, yeah, when he hired me, he called me about a month and a half later, and when he was picking up his own business and needed an extra hand, and was like, hey, are you still interested? And I was like, yeah, I am. So started, and it was not a great start. I looked around at the guys that I was working with that already had it figured out, and they just like seemed like they were moving so fast, and I was moving so slow, and I was like holding the business back in a way I really cared about. It was one of the first times had worked for a small business besides my very first job, which was working for Phipps Chevron and coming out of high school, or in high school still. And that was also, I cared a lot about that job too in that setting. And in between that, it'd been these gas station jobs that I just didn't care about really, just to make a paycheck. So going back and working for a small business owner, and also doing something that I was really wanted to be good at. I was not good at it at first, but I really wanted to be. So a pivotal breakthrough moment. I wish it could be like something positive, like, yeah, this is for me. But actually it came from kind of a negative experience. It was only a couple months in, maybe 2 months or so into working for Alanis' shop. And this guy saw a lot of me more than I saw in myself, because yeah, I was just beating myself up mentally every day, just telling myself what a worthless piece of crap I was, like that I just didn't know what I was doing and I wasn't gonna get it. And trying to learn a new craft at the same time, like I said, it just put me in just a horrible bad state. I wanted to quit, I just told myself what a worthless, piece. I wasn't gonna get it. I've been there for over a month, and I'm like, I can't even figure it out without going to have to pull someone away, or they have to bring it back to me because it wasn't good enough, and just like, God. So I went out one day of the shop, left the vehicle I was working on, and went kind of just stomping over to Alanis, not like mad at him, but like definitely projecting my frustration of myself, like emotionally at him. And instead of him, like, cause I just, I went to him and was like, dude, I'm like not helping your business. I'm just like, I'm crappy. I can't figure it out. All your guys are better than me, and they're tired of me always needing help. I just feel like I'm just holding the whole thing back. And he just looks at me and kind of like weighs me over, and I think he's pressure washing a car, but he goes to a truck off to the side that's parked, and he puts the tailgate down. He's like, just come sit down. I was like, all right, and sits me down. And cause I think I told him too, I was like really, really mad at myself. I think I said, I'm so worthless. I might as well just kill myself. I think I was like that mentally and emotionally, like bad, like in myself. Like I hated myself because of how not good I was at something that I knew I could be good at. And I always felt like a failure. And so he was like, dude, just come sit down. And he talked right through me, told me what he saw in me, and told me he wanted me to be a part of his team. And he also told me a story about how he had a family member that had taken their own life and in Mexico when he had moved here to the States. And So I really like, and how, and he expressed to me how it got him in such a bad spiral of drinking and stuff, and that's, to get over the pain of losing his family member. And so, see, and then looking at my own self and being on these drugs that I'm already using that I don't think he knows, but who knows, you know? And it's like, so, and it was a really big turning pivotal moment, realizing like how much pain someone endured that lost a family member. And I have family that cares about me, and I'm trying to endure something, and I'm also wanting to like out myself at the same time. And so seeing someone that's like trying to endure something, and they had to have to go through the pain of having a family member that did that to themselves, and just seeing how he has to struggle through it, it made me realize that I could never put someone, a family member themselves, through any of that. And also, it made me realize that no matter what you go through in life, Alan, he's lost somebody and he has all these, these drinking issues that he's getting over and trying to be his best at for his business and his own, community and family. And it just shows that, like, okay, my life maybe isn't as bad as I'm looking at it right now. This guy's older than me and he's been through more and he's still pushing himself. And, he's still wanting me to be a part of his business and help him out with everything that I'm going through and be very open about it to him. And so that was like the biggest pivotal moment in me energetically that I felt. And it was funny because not long after that, I had even had to go in, I was having wrist problems. So I got over the mental and emotional state. And then all of a sudden I'm having physical issues because months prior back to that, before I started detailing, I was really upset for whatever reason. And I went to Club 24 and I was hitting on their punching bag after they had already put all of the punching bag equipment away, like all the actual gloves and everything. So I was just open palming it, or open, hitting it with no gloves on, basically, skin to skin. And I punched the open palm one time and I messed up my wrist. I broke my wrist. Didn't know I broke my wrist. So I started working for Alanis for like 2 months with a broken wrist. But I mean, I didn't care like about that pain, a physical pain, because I was just so mentally and emotionally screwed up. And then once I started using detailing as a focus and a way to overcome that mental and emotional states and find balance in it, then my physical pains and abruptness started popping up and needing attention. So then I went to the hospital, got an x-ray, and had to get surgery. Like, not even a couple weeks later, it was needed surgery really bad. And the bone wasn't healing. And so they were saying it was going to be locked in place if it didn't get done. So no, he still didn't fire me. He, small company, didn't have any, it didn't happen at the job, so it happened on my own time. I wasn't going to try to get any workers' comp, but he didn't even have any like short-term leave pay or anything like that, but he still wanted to keep me around. And I think he actually gave me like a small, just $250 just paycheck without me even working 1 week, just to help me out, because I was out for probably about 3 weeks of working. They wanted me to be out for like 2 months, but I went back as soon as I could because I was driven and I wanted to learn. And I was like, I didn't care anymore what was holding me back. I was willing to get through it. Even a physical injury with only working with one arm. I had this removable cast that I only could take off to, take a shower or whatever. And so working with one arm, and there's my dominant arm and my left arm, it was like a good 2 to 3 months of just teaching yourself something with one arm, and you had to get through all the mental emotional stuff. Now you're getting through some sort of physical thing. And that was like the biggest turning pivotal moment, was at the beginning working for Alanisa's shop here in town. It was just getting through those mental and physical adjustments. And it was like the first 6 months of getting back into this craft after working for it 2 years prior. So the worst advice that someone's ever given to me is that it's basically not worth it. And it came from um, my dad's ex-wife's father. So my dad's ex-father-in-law. Well, it's my grandpa. Still, I call him grandpa. Great man. Nothing against him. But just when I started detailing, I think the best advice, or sorry, the worst advice is just being told that it's not worth it when you go from, you're putting your all into something. And what happened was I had to go make more money. And so I started working for Walmart DC. And my grandpa was like, really, like, yeah, that's what you need to go do. It's not worth it to go, do detailing. It's not going to get you very far in life. Walmart's a great company, big company. And so just hear it like that, like it's not worth it anyways to even stick with something that you're actually passionate about, you love talking about. You don't love talking about working. Whoops, a ghoster in here. You don't love talking about working for a Walmart DC and stacking packages, and even though you make, $7, $8 more an hour than you did, detailing cars, it's still like it doesn't compare the feeling that you get. So that's like was the worst, advice, or just worse, someone could say to you and involved in your passion. And I think the best advice came from probably my dad at one point, when he could see, like, within maybe a year and a half of me fully going into this. 2020 was where I fully went into this, like, independently. And within like within a year, while family's like, oh yeah, you're pretty good at it, you're making decent money, whatever. But like within a year and a half, they started to realize like how seriously I was taken. And my dad had been going through a divorce. And so it was a tough time for him emotionally. I was trying to be there the best I could, and he trying to be the best that he could in a support sense for what energy he had to give with going through his own, traumatic divorce in life. And so he said to me one night, he could, we were just talking about, like, I think I was talking about buying some new stuff for the business or whatever it was. I don't know, the jobs I had to do. But he just kind of like lowered his voice down as deep as he could. And he said to me, whatever you do, son, just give it your all. And that right there was like the best advice you can hear. I think, especially coming from a parent, and for me being the main only parent really in my life was my dad. Mom wasn't around. So like hearing that from him, like that's the most and only important person that like even matters. So like for a son anyways, usually your father is who you want to make proud. So like, right then and there, I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing, not just to make my dad proud, but I've got that clarification within the inner child within everyone's self, just making dad proud. So that was pretty good advice to hear. Being present is not going anywhere, really. It's being right here, right now. It's way past the physical. Being present is like a daily practice of being attuned to where your thoughts are at and how you feel in your body, like your emotional and your inside world, how it feels where you are at physically. If you feel grounded, you feel comfortable, but at the same time, you still have it in you. Your energy is still being able to be used to go do the things that you're meant to be going to do in life. Being present is just about not letting the outside world pull your inside world from being right content with what you have and where you're at right here and right now. Because if you never are fully content with where you're at right here right now, which is the present, then it doesn't matter what future you ever get to, and it doesn't matter even if you could go in the past and fix any of it. If you're not completely content with where you're at right here right now, then, which is the present, then the future, which is the only place we're going, is you're never gonna be content with that either. So it's always bringing your huge vision and aspirations, and knowing that yes, that's what I want. That's what I want to go after. But knowing the more you like talk about it and you want to like just make that your only objective of you being happy when you get there, or being like, I'm gonna feel this good when I get there. If somehow you can bring that all back to the present, those feelings and that awareness, and then you can still just take one step in front of the other, moving towards that future that you have these visions for, then I feel like that itself will make a way better present moment. And when you actually get to the arrival of that big, aspiration, that future that you dream of, you'll actually enjoy it and you'll be more involved with the present of that future as well. And you won't be like just wanting to chase more, chase more, chase more. So I think it's really important to be present. And whether you put one foot in front of the other continuously, just keep, pushing yourself through it, and also having the right people around you, that's kind of a reinforcement as well. Like I was lucky enough to have a good group of guys, and the owner of the business who I learned how to do all this stuff from, Alanis, it had its goods and bads, but for the most part, it was the right reinforcements of people that kept me wanting to come back and learn more, expand my knowledge, and expand my way of learning how to run a business even. So yeah, that's kind of like the biggest things that, like, I think would keep someone going. That's advice that I give to others who are struggling to find their own career path. If you just keep going, bouncing around, and not fully going through the grain, because anything that you're meant to be good at in life, it's going to be really hard at first, probably harder than anything else that you've ever tried to do. Um, and to me, that's, when that happens, there's probably going to be a point where you will just like want to give up too, completely. Maybe multiple points even. So I think the best advice is to just not give up, really. And how do you do that? Is by continuing to, I think, go back into that present moment, finding, because it's when it gets to the point where the outside and everything that you just continue to do on the outside, and it feels like it's not enough or it's just not satisfying you, that's when it's time to take a turning point and go back into your inner world and reflect upon your journey and see, maybe why you're actually feeling the way that you are. Sometimes we seek validation on the outside. Maybe it comes from childhood or whatever, of needing to be validated in our accomplishments. If we don't become that person that validates our own success, our own journey, looking back at where we started and where we're at now, and validating that we are doing good enough. And it's really easy to maybe want to like give up and just go into something else and seek more, validation from the outside. Because there's usually anything that you're starting new at, you're going to get a lot of supporters, like, oh, good job, or and it's in the middle of the journey when you're all by yourself. All the challenges are just popping up left and right. Seems like nothing's going anywhere. When really, this is like the point where everything that you've been doing is now like shifting into something better. And it's that point where you're all alone. You don't have any outside validation. You don't have, anyone to pat you on the back and tell you you're doing good. It's that point where you need to be your own best friend. And I think that's like, to anybody trying to figure out what they want to do in life, is like anything that you go into, learn how to be your own best friend, learn how to give yourself the own validation that you're trying to seek on the outside from others to know that you're doing good enough. It's good to have those reinforcements, and you will get them if you're meant to be doing what you're doing. But I think in any situation in life, it matters most to learn how to be your own best friend, your own biggest supporter in anything. So thank you guys for watching the video. If you made it all the way through, again, this is Devin with Enlightened Flow Detail. Yeah, this was a great project to be a part of. Thank you, Dalen, with Travel with Day Productions. He did an amazing job bringing this together, coming to my shop to do it, my new location. I just made this for anybody who is young and has a drive within them, but just doesn't know where to apply it. And hopefully this inspires you to just, buckle down and try to figure that out at an early age, because I think you could probably succeed a lot younger than I have even. So, thank you again for watching, and hope this can help someone out. Have a great day. Thanks so much.